a synonym of the queers here. K-U-C-H-U.
Hi there, this is Nicholas Casimir, and I'm here with filmmakers of Me Kuchu. What is the film about?
Well, the film basically follows David Kato and other members of the LGBT community in Uganda over the course of a year and a half. So we first started filming with David in early 2010, just soon after this anti-homosexuality bill had been introduced, which proposed a death penalty for HIV-positive gay men and a prison sentence for anyone who failed to turn in a known homosexual. It was incredibly draconian.
The anti-homosexuality bill, which was tabled in Parliament, proposes life imprisonment for gay activity and death for aggravated homosexuality.
Homosexuals, they eat each other's rectum, they eat their poo-poo. Americans and Europeans, they want us to eat their poison of homosexuality. We're saying no.
We basically filmed David and the rest of the community as they worked to fight that legislation, but also to fight other forms of state-sanctioned homophobia, which included a tabloid newspaper that was outing members of the community routinely, publishing their photos, their names, their addresses, where they worked, so people could go and find them. And David took that newspaper to court, and we followed that whole court process. But 1 year into filming and only 3 weeks after a pretty significant legal victory that David brought about, David was actually murdered in his home. And we kind of continued to film with the community and just to try and, show the impact of his death both on the community in Uganda and also on the international LGBT community, and show how his death kind of had an impact around the world.
People are calling for death for people who are HIV positive and gay. Like, this is insane. Were you flabbergasted as human beings? I mean, not just as filmmakers. What was your reaction to this story?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that was definitely what got us actually on planes, just to go figure out what was happening there. I mean, there was definitely some sense of urgency and just like disbelief at the tabling of the bill. But then I think what we ended up, and I think even before we went, we knew that there was something more to it than just that. There's a lot of, actually a much stronger dialogue at play than you might think is the case. In Uganda, they actually have a relatively strong sense of freedom of the press, so you do have lesbians writing op-eds in the newspaper, you do have members of the LGBT community fighting for their rights in court and actually winning. Victor Mukasa is a transgender man who had won a big court case prior to the tabling of the anti-homosexuality bill.
Before we went for the first time, we'd kind of read all these stories and the bill had already been proposed, and the dominant narrative was very much one of victimization. And so we kind of thought, for the most part, even though we knew there were some activists there, but we thought we were going out there just to see what we could find around that story. And when we got there, we actually realized that they're definitely being persecuted and they were victims, but they were also, David and other members of the community who are protagonists in the film also, were actually doing a lot to change the situation, and they were working really hard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And half of the reason we even knew about what was going on there was because of what they were doing. And similarly, now the US State Department under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is working a lot on this issue, and President Obama and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon are talking about this issue, and a lot of that is because, in some way, is because of the work that David and his and the rest of the activists in Uganda were doing. And after a while we realized that that was the story we were interested in far more than just the story of persecution.
As we grieve, we can't forget that we've been powered through the death of David.
I am curious, as filmmakers and cinematographers, as you both sort of did everything on this film, which is extraordinary. It's an extraordinary looking film. Did you think, what will I relate to, like this homosexual man of color who lives in Uganda?
I think both of us, in terms of the style of filmmaking, like the various styles we like, kind of often the one thing in common is that the labels on the people aren't the kind of important thing. It's more just the kind of the universal aspects of their humanity that everyone can relate to. And we were very keen to make a film that wasn't just going to play well for LGBT audiences. It was very important to us both artistically and in terms of advocacy, that the film would play well and be very relatable to people who aren't of color and or aren't LGBT, or have no interest in human rights, or whatever it is. But we wanted it to be something that's a character portrait as much as it is an exploration of an important issue.
Well, you guys made an amazing film, and I look forward to seeing more from you guys. But more importantly, I look forward to the impact this film is having on a social world scale. And I think you guys did an incredible job. It's really a really important, but also beautiful film. Well, thank you. Thank you.
People want to know our stories. That's one reason I decided to come out, no matter what.
They kept on saying we're not here, but you've read.